But Marcus wasn't worried. He had faced worse storms before, and now he had an entire neighborhood standing beside him. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning when Marcus stepped out of his front door with a steaming mug of coffee in hand. The neighborhood was quiet, save for the soft hum of lawnmowers in the distance and the chirping of birds perched on the trees. But as he glanced toward his driveway, his expression tightened. There it was again, a shiny blue SUV parked squarely across the middle of his concrete drive, blocking his truck. Marcus sighed. This wasn't the first time. For 3 weeks straight, the same vehicle appeared uninvited, always in his driveway and always without a word of apology. He knew exactly who it belonged to: Linda Harrington, the self-proclaimed protector of the HOA. Linda, with her tailored blazers and sharp tongue, had made herself infamous in the community. She barked orders at children who rode their bikes too fast, scolded families whose lawns weren't trimmed to her liking, and issued fines for trash cans left outside for more than 20 minutes. Yet somehow, she felt entitled to use Marcus's driveway as if it were her personal parking space. Marcus wasn't a man who lost his temper easily. Years of military service had taught him discipline and patience. But patience wasn't the same thing as weakness, and Linda was mistaking his silence for surrender. That morning, Marcus snapped a photo of the SUV and tucked his phone into his pocket. He walked back inside, finished his coffee, and decided today would be different. Around noon, Marcus spotted Linda in her driveway, chatting with her neighbor Paula. He crossed the street calmly. "Linda," he said evenly, "your car is in my driveway again." She turned with that familiar smirk, as if amused. "Oh, Marcus, it's just temporary. I needed space for some deliveries." "You have such a wide driveway. Why does it matter?" "It matters," Marcus replied firmly. "It's my property." "You're trespassing." Her smirk soured. "Trespassing? Don't be dramatic. We're neighbors. Besides, the HOA bylaws give me authority to manage community spaces." Marcus folded his arms. "My driveway isn't a community space." Paula chuckled nervously, tugging at Linda's elbow, but Linda brushed her off. "Look, Marcus, don't make this difficult. If you're going to live here, you need to learn how things work. I run this neighborhood. Next time, don't fuck with me." The words landed like a slap, crude and dripping with arrogance. A few neighbors who had been trimming hedges nearby froze, their eyes widening at her tone. Marcus's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "Noted," he said before turning away. He knew this wasn't over. The following day, the SUV was back, this time parked even more defiantly, angled across his driveway like a dare. Marcus didn't bother knocking on Linda's door. Instead, he phoned the local towing service, explained the situation, and waited. When the tow truck rolled up 20 minutes later, Linda came sprinting out of her house, heels clacking on the pavement. "What do you think you're doing?" she shrieked. Marcus handed the driver his ID and proof of ownership. "Removing an unauthorized vehicle from my property." Linda's face turned scarlet. "This is harassment." "I'll call the HOA board. I'll call the police." "Call whoever you need," Marcus said calmly. "But your car is leaving my driveway today." The tow operator hooked the SUV, and neighbors gathered on porches to watch. Some whispered, others recorded on their phones. For once, the self-assured HOA queen looked powerless. As the SUV was hauled down the street, Linda rounded on Marcus, her voice trembling with rage. "You'll regret this. I'll bury you in fines. I'll make sure you wish you never moved here." Marcus simply turned and walked back inside. But deep down, he knew Linda wasn't bluffing. A storm was coming, and he was ready to face it. The storm Linda promised didn't take long to arrive. By the next evening, Marcus found a bright orange envelope taped to his front door. In bold letters, it read, "Notice of violation." Marcus tore it open. The list of supposed offenses was almost laughable. Improper landscaping. His grass was freshly cut. Unapproved vehicle modifications. His truck had stock tires. Noise complaint. He hadn't even had guests all week. At the bottom, Linda's signature sat smugly above the HOA letterhead. Marcus chuckled dryly. So this is her war. The HOA meeting 3 days later. Marcus received another letter, this time announcing a mandatory HOA hearing to address repeated violations. The meeting was set for Friday evening at the clubhouse. When Marcus arrived, the parking lot was packed. Word had spread, and half the neighborhood had come to witness the showdown. Inside, the clubhouse smelled of coffee and tension. At the front sat Linda, flanked by her loyal allies Paula and Jeff. A row of folding chairs faced them, most occupied by curious residents eager for drama. Linda tapped her gavel. "This hearing is now in session. Mr. Bennett, you stand accused of multiple violations." Marcus raised a hand calmly. "Before we begin, I'd like to state for the record that every claim in that letter was false." Linda's smile was sharp. "That's for us to decide. We have authority here." Marcus looked directly at the crowd. "Do you really?" The room buzzed. The confrontation. Linda straightened her papers. Violation 1, improper landscaping. "Your hedges are out of compliance with Section 7. Marcus pulled out photos taken that very morning, perfectly trimmed, measured to code. He held them up for all to see. "Looks fine to me." Paula leaned toward Linda, whispering frantically, but Linda pressed on. "Violation 2, unapproved modifications to your truck." Marcus set his registration papers on the table. "Completely stock. Want to call the dealership and confirm." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Linda's face reddened, but she didn't stop. "Violation 3, noise complaints." At this, Marcus stepped closer. His voice grew firmer. "Funny. My security cameras show no guests, no parties, nothing but silence. But they do show something else." He pulled out his tablet, tapped, and projected footage onto the clubhouse wall. The video showed Linda herself late at night, striding across his driveway to park her SUV. Another clip showed her cursing as the tow truck hauled it away. Gasps erupted. Someone in the back muttered, "Busted." Linda's composure cracked. "That's irrelevant. This isn't about me, it's about your disrespect for the HOA. Marcus's tone sharpened. "No, this is about your abuse of power. You don't like that I stood up to you. So you manufactured violations, hoping to intimidate me. But you made a mistake." The revelation. Marcus reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "These," he said, laying documents on the table, "are property records. This neighborhood was built 20 years ago. And guess who the land originally belonged to? My grandfather. He sold the lots but retained certain rights, including the easement to my driveway." He held up another sheet. "And more importantly, I own this home outright, paid in cash. The HOA has no authority over my property beyond basic city ordinances. Every so-called violation you've threatened me with, legally void." The room exploded with murmurs. Several neighbors clapped. Linda pounded her gavel furiously. "Out of order." "This is out of order." But Marcus wasn't finished. He turned toward the crowd. "Neighbors, you've all felt this. The constant harassment, the nitpicking, the threats of fines. Some of you stayed quiet out of fear. But silence only feeds bullies. Tonight you saw the truth. Her rules don't protect us, they protect her power." The turning tide. One by one, neighbors began to speak up. Lillian, the elderly widow, stood shakily. "She fined me $200 because my grandson left his bike in the yard for 5 minutes. Jamal, the local shop owner, raised his voice. "She threatened to tow my wife's car when it was parked in front of our house. Said it wasn't aesthetically appropriate." Teresa, a mother of 2, added, "She told my kids they couldn't play chalk on the sidewalk because it made the street look cheap." The floodgates opened. Complaint after complaint filled the air. People who had once whispered now shouted. The clubhouse was no longer Linda's court. It was a jury of her neighbors, and the verdict was damning. Paula slunk lower in her chair. Jeff stared at the floor. Linda's face twisted with desperation. "None of this matters. I am the president of this HOA." Marcus's voice cut through the noise. Not for long. Justice served. Marcus pulled out one last document. According to the bylaws, residents can call for a vote of no confidence with a 2/3 majority. I have a petition right here, signed by more than half the neighborhood already. Tonight we finish it." He handed the petition to Harold, who raised it high. "All in favor of removing Linda Harrington as HOA president, say aye." The thunderous chorus of "aye" shook the walls. Only 3 voices muttered nay: Linda, Paula, and Jeff. Linda's gavel slipped from her hand and clattered to the table. Her face went pale as the realization sank in. "You can't do this," she whispered. Marcus looked her in the eye. "We just did." The aftermath. By the end of the night, the neighborhood had a new interim board made up of residents who actually cared. Plans were drafted for fairer rules, transparent finances, and a friendlier community. For the first time in years, people felt free. Marcus walked home under the glow of streetlights, tired but satisfied. When he reached his driveway, it was blessedly empty. No SUV blocking his way, no threats taped to his door. As he leaned against his truck, Harold joined him. "You handled that well, Marcus. Didn't lose your cool once." Marcus smiled faintly. "Sometimes the best way to fight a bully is to shine a light. The rest takes care of itself." Across the street, Linda's blinds twitched. She was still there, simmering in defeat. Maybe she'd try again someday. But Marcus wasn't worried. He had faced worse storms before, and now he had an entire neighborhood standing beside him.